Be sure to join Fox Sports Radio's Basketball Playoffs Bracket Challenge. That's a mouthful. Presented by Wolf and Shepherd. Fill out a playoff bracket here at foxsportsradio.com, foxsportsradio.com, and compete against Fox Sports Radio hosts and fellow listeners such as myself and Rob. The listener in first place wins a $1,000 gift card. Fill out your bracket now until noon Eastern on Saturday and get official rules at foxsportsradio.com. It's the bracket challenge, and it's all presented by Wolf and Shepherd. But we've talked about the Lakers, Rob, and, I got them winning the West. I think you got the Clippers winning the West. But let's look at the Warriors. And, of course, they play tomorrow against Memphis in the play-in game. If they win, they got Utah in the first round. If they lose, they go home. And it's Memphis, Utah. And I'm sure anyone not living in Memphis, I don't know about you. You probably actually with the folks in Memphis. But most people not living in Memphis don't want to see Steph and Golden State's run end this early. It's going to end soon. But
I'm picking Memphis in that game.
Look, I'm going with Golden State, but Memphis could get them. Number one, that game last week, Rob, remember, for the AC was close. Memphis played them tough. Memphis is tough. They got Ja Morant. Dylan Brooks is playing well. But also, it's possible that Golden State will be emotionally spent. You know what I mean? From that game. I mean, they put everything into that game last night and come up short. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're right, but I'm gonna go with the Warriors.
I think Memphis showed me something yesterday. They had a big lead, Chris. They choked it down. They came back. You know what I mean? Like, that was a game that they could have crumbled because they had such a big lead early on in the game. And, I don't know. And the Warriors, I mean, the Lakers had to shoot 4 for 28 to start the game just to give them a chance to be in that game. I mean, they didn't blow them out. They weren't up by 25. A team shoots 4 for 28. They're three big stars, and you're up by, 10, 11 points.
I mean, you're talking about, look, the Lakers were only in that game because their two best players were hurt for gobs of the season. The Warriors were in that game because right now they're a legitimate eighth seed. That's what they are. And so it was one team is just better than the other, but the Warriors had their chance. But here's what I want to talk about. And I was on with Colin today on the Herd, and he thinks Steph should go elsewhere. We've all talked about, is LeBron recruiting Steph? What if the Brooklyn Nets are as good as advertised and they just become the new Golden State Warriors and nobody can play with them? Does Steph need to team up or LeBron get somebody else? Maybe those two team up to challenge Brooklyn. Here's my take on it, Rob. And I felt this way all season, but even more so based off last night, I think the Warriors will be contenders next year. Now, I don't know that they'll win the West. I mean, I think if age doesn't get too much of LeBron, the Lakers will still be there. The Clippers will still be good, assuming they don't lose Kwame, which I don't think they will. I mean, Kawhi, I don't think they will. And then, of course, the other teams are pretty good. But I think Golden State will be a contender and have a shot at winning the West. That team, though, Jordan Poole and JTA, Juan Toscano Anderson, and all these other guys are getting seasoning right now. And they're going to move down a notch. Instead of being a sixth man, you'll be a seventh man or an eighth man or ninth man. And they'll play well in that role because of the seasoning they're getting now. Andrew Wiggins, who people have criticized him, obviously not to the point of Kwame Brown, but it's similar. It's less, of course, but Andrew Wiggins was the number one pick. Everybody thought he was going to be a superstar. He's not that, but he is a very good player. His defense this year was stellar. He's become he's always scored. He's always giving you about 20 a game, but he's not really that second scorer on a great team. But next year, he moves down a notch. He's the third scorer, and he's the fourth best player. So I think with Steph and Klay, you're not going to be able to focus on Steph as much as you have this year. So it'll open things up for him. Wiggins becomes a third scorer, and if he gives you 17, 18 a night as a third scorer and great defense, that's terrific. Draymond will play. He's played well other than scoring, but he'll even score a little more because, again, everything's open up. I like James Wiseman. I think he's a nice center for that team because he's long, he's athletic, he can shoot a little bit. So I actually think what Steph should do is stay there next year, play out your contract, and go for it. If they're up in the elite of the West, whether they win the West or not, I'd stay there. If they go and they're a 7 seed, 8 seed again like this year, and you see that there's just a huge gulf between you and the top teams in the conference, then maybe you can look at moving on. But I don't think their window is absolutely positively shut to at least get back to the finals.
I just don't think he's leaving Golden State under any circumstance. I just don't. I really don't. I think he's won enough. His legacy's not going to change any. He's one of those guys who should stay in the same uniform his entire career. There's only a handful of guys who do that nowadays, and I think that's what would be better for him. And trying to just figure it out with whatever you have left. You got Clay. You still have the original 3 guys who, were drafted and played there together. I just think that would be the right ending, whether they win or not. Going to be another part of another team and then maybe even not winning, or doing a Michael Jordan and going to some franchise or going somewhere else and you don't win, or you get drubbed, or you get run out of the building, or whatever it is. I just don't see Steph Curry doing that. I would be totally surprised and shocked if he joined or did anything of that nature with other players. I just don't see. He's got 3 champions. He doesn't have anything else to do but play out his career, to me.
But I think, and I agree with you in that I don't think he'll leave. I wouldn't begrudge him if he does. But I just think the Warriors actually have a chance to have another run. Tim Duncan and the Spurs, Rob, they went 7 years between championships, 6 years between even getting to the finals. He won it in 2007, his 4th ring. They got back in 2013, lost to the Miami Heat, and then won it in 2014. So it's not like, you get a 5-year period and that's it. A lot of times that's how it is. But it doesn't have to be that way. And I think with what the Warriors have, remember, they also had the Minnesota Timberwolves #1 pick. So that's a top 3 protected pick, and then they got their own pick. So whether they draft a player or whether they use that, maybe package it with somebody else to get another star type or near star type player to help them win now, they've got options. So in that regard, I'm with you. If you can win it again and you're close, why in the world leave? But if Steph, he's still playing great. Like I said, I think he's playing the best ball of his career just because of all the attention that is on him, and he's still doing damage. So if he's still got, 4 more years at this level and wants to play for championships, then I'm not mad at that at all. So we will see what he does. But I totally think he needs to stay there next season and not even think about moving on, and I think that'll be the case.